So this is Nizi Project Season 2. Just started up. Let me mute this. So this just started up. Apparently it wasn't a live stream. I was waiting for a live stream. And then how I found it was apparently they tweeted out an unlisted video to their channel. I don't know why they did that. Just put the videos up. Like, why are you making me hunt for this thing? But apparently they didn't stream it. They just put up a fully edited YouTube video. I don't know why I'm saying apparently. That's actually what they did. And so what I like about this is that they styled it like Japanese TV. They're like, whenever we were saying stuff, like text would appear and it'd be like impacting on the screen and stuff. And so definitely a different pacing from A2K if you've been watching A2K. But something also interesting happened is that this episode is 55 minutes. And then in 55 minutes we got 5 trainees. I was expecting way more trainees because of the show length. But there was just, it looks like the pattern's going to be whenever there is a audition, it's just going to be 10 minutes per trainee. But this is Nizi Project Season 2. We're covering boys this time instead of the girls. And JYP, he's always surprising with his fluency in Japanese and English. But apparently what happened to JYP during this is that he had to be quarantined because he may have been in contact with certain people during the COVID situation. And so final auditions, like stage, there's three phases to auditions as far as I understand. First stage, you see a producer or something. Second stage, another secondary producer. And then third stage, you go to see JYP. And then he decides in terms of the final thing. And so this is interesting because it feels like, are those first 2 guys just filters? Or do they make kind of certain decisions? Are they more lax? Because JYP might be missing on someone who maybe they're not as skilled, but maybe they have potential. But I guess I don't know what those faces are. Maybe some people are just too weird. Maybe like someone judges appearance, and so they filter it out that way, and things that don't really 100% they know they don't want in the final group. But anyways, that's what happened. That JYP had to meet certain people in different locations. And so I'm not sure which locations that had to be skipped. It might have been Nagoya and Fukuoka. But let's move forward anyways. So Hiroshima was the first location. And, something I noticed right away is like there's a politeness in like the terms of like knocking for entering, bowing profusely over and over when like you are thanking people. And then people like accidentally maybe opening the door too fast and feeling like they rushed in. I just really like those kind of formalities. It's kind of like funny. But the first trainee we got to see is Yamaguchi Takao. And so he's 14 years old. He's a soft looking boy. Kind of looks like looks like a kid who may be like on a snack package growing up, like a cartoon kid. And now this is him when he's older. So he kind of has that look, like he got the dimples, got the kind of like soft, cute boy head, and so that's him. I don't know if he's gonna have that small energy, but so far he's the only one with that energy, and so I feel like that kind of gives him an edge. But in terms of his actual dancing, and he didn't sing, by the way. He appears to have a lot of stage experience. It looks like doing multiple things, like a jack of all trades. In terms of his dance, let's get to his dancing. So when he's dancing, I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, he's slightly stiff and slow in some places. And that's, other than that, I think he's okay. Seems to be, hitting his mark. Now, JYP, on the other hand, says he performs theatrically. And it looks unnatural, but he gave him a pass because he's confident. And I can kind of understand where JYP is coming from. JYP kind of emphasized something about how there's a difference between acting on a TV show and acting theatrically, because in a theater, you've got this audience and people are like all the way in the back seat. And so in order to reach those people and express to them, you have to kind of exaggerate your face expressions, you exaggerate your movements, and you kind of like, you do it in a way that's kind of like really showing things in all angles. And that's really interesting because I've always talked about like kind of theater acting versus film acting, and one thing you notice is that something interesting happens in culture where in America, movies have been big for a long time. So the acting in movies is a little bit more kind of like, I feel like it's better. But in like Britain or Korea, it feels like when you're acting, you learn a lot from stage acting more than kind of like other kinds of acting. And what happens is that it seeps into the television, right? The theatricalness seeps into their television, and so what you start the danger with that there's actually a cultural danger of theatrical acting, is that you influence the way people actually behave if they start to see patterns of stuff. And so if someone's like used to like falling over and putting their hands in their head when they're crying, like they would in a theater play, that would actually translate into culture, and people would start doing that in real life. And that's stuff you kind of see in like K drama, in J drama, and stuff, and like even like British people, like the way they act. That's something you see. But anyways, I'm kind of digress. I'm going on a tangent. I don't know why I always do that. But that's Taco, and I think he was okay. JYP gave him a pass. He liked him. He liked his confidence. Let's move on to the next guy. This is Otsuka Takato. He's 17. He apparently likes dressing retro, self-taught in dance, never really learned how to sing professionally. I feel like already you can see he's more masculine than Takeo. He has a way stronger jawline and chin. And, I like his look. He's kind of in an awkward phase, but most boys are going to be in an awkward phase in their teens. And so, in like from 15 to 18, 15 to 20, like they're going to be in an awkward phase. But when you're a little boy, you're cute, and then you're like, after you become 20, then you start to slowly become a man. When you're 40, you're like fully like a man. And so, then you have that mannish look, right? So this guy, he's like, obviously, I feel like he has a good, decent look. And when he sings, so when he's singing, I felt like he was really good at the kind of talk rapping at the beginning. And when he sings, I like it. I think it's rough in some areas, but he has strong emotions, and that's really what's important to me. And then when he got to singing again, rapping again, he had a good feeling to his rap. Now, JYP, when he was looking at him, he's like way more technical about it. He's like, your voice drops at a high pitch. You're good with rhythm, but your low and middle pitch are good. But aside from that, he says his eyes are honest and pure. And apparently this kid, when he had the opportunity to write what his happiest moment was, he didn't write something like, oh, I got exactly like the PS2 I wanted, PS4, whatever. Or he didn't say, oh, I went to Disneyland in Japan one time. He said his happiest moment is being born from his mom, which is kind of an ongoing thing. That's like a generalized thing. And so it shows an appreciation for kind of like things that people take for granted. And it's like his happiest moment is still happening. And I thought that was really like profound and beautiful in a way, because like a lot of people take so many things for granted, and this guy just seems to have, JYP's right, he has a pure heart, and that's what I like about this guy. He might be my second favorite person I saw on this show in terms of the trainees, but definitely this is kind of a guy you want to back, and I think a lot of people are going to back him when they see him, especially in Japan. So that's the Hiroshima trainees. After that, we moved to Kobe, and this is Tomiyasu Yu, and to me, he has a decent look. Like, he has this kind of a street style look, as far as like just a regular kid hanging on the streets, like you would see him. And I don't know, maybe I relate to him because I grew up in the projects, but I kind of connect with this guy a lot. I think like he actually might be my favorite guy I saw on this episode. In terms of his ability, he's used to auditioning. He was a trainee somewhere, and he wasn't nervous, but he was kind of on edge because his grandfather passed away like a day before the final phase of auditions. And so I kind of felt bad about that for him, because like you're kind of shook, and so you kind of just have to like cope with it in a way. And you can just say like, oh, my grandfather was with me, and so but this guy, I still feel like, regardless of my personal like feeling of connection to him, I feel like he's connected. You can connect to him even if you're just a regular person, because out of all the trainees, he's actually struggling the most. And so he's talking about how he kind of didn't passed the test enough times in terms of auditioning, and he was almost ready to give up on it and start trying other things. But it's like a nagging thing in the back of your head. You have to like achieve your dream so that you can live without regrets, basically. And so I feel like this whole thing about him going on this tangent and trying these other things and then coming back to give himself another chance at his dream, that's something anyone can connect to. And so I feel like, aside from how I feel about this guy in terms of my vibe, maybe other people will connect to him the same way because of just that he's just a guy who's struggling. And his grandfather died as well. So I feel bad about him for that. But let's just get to his skill, because really at the end of the day, I actually don't, even if he has a sob story and even if I connect to him, I don't look at that. I always look at the merits of how you can vibe with them in real time when they're performing. So when he was singing, in my opinion, it was shaky. But he has a nice sound to his voice. And so you can kind of, I'm at this point where I'm understanding what A2K and Nizi Project is all about. It's like, you're looking for people with potential. And, even if people aren't perfectly polished, I've always been kind of generous, regardless of that. And so I would say, yeah, it's shaky, but he has a nice voice. So if you can iron out the kinks, I think that he would be really good. When it got to his dancing, I actually really liked his dancing, and there were no negatives for me. Now, JYP, on the other hand, he said, did you learn B-Boy? And then he was talking about how unnecessary it was to have certain straight movements, and saying his movements are really bad. They were powerful but bad, and he doesn't look like a good dancer, and he lacks basic skill. And then in terms of his singing, that's unstable. And so JYP actually was way harder on him than I was. I was just like, oh, it's slightly shaky. I like his dancing. I don't have a negative thing to say about it. But JYP was like kind of brutal about it. But still, he decided he would want to teach him. And so when I look at that, I'm like, okay, so what are we seeing? What's the difference here? Are we both looking at the potential, and I'm just commenting on the potential? Maybe. And then he's commenting on the technical things, which he would know more about, by the way. And so what JYP says, ultimately, is that what he wants is naturalness and sincerity. And this kid definitely has that. And so I have high hopes for this kid. And I like him a lot. I think he's going to do really well. Now that is, I guess, the only person they wanted to show from Kobe. And then we go to Seoul, Korea next. And so that's the end of the Japanese trainees for now. There's going to be other locations in Japan, I think. Including, I don't know, Nagoya, Fukuoka. But for now we're going to Seoul. And apparently JYP was expecting JYP trainees here. But the first one we got to see is Amira Sodai. He's a 1-year trainee. I don't know if that's with JYP. But one thing you notice about Mirai is that Mira was really congenial behind the scenes. And like hugging the other guys and kind of like smiling at them. And so he looks to really get along with people. And it seemed like everyone in that room in Seoul really got along. And so there was a very different vibe in the Korean audition room than it was in the Japanese ones. In terms of this guy's singing. In terms of his singing, I felt he was a bit breathy. And it's not really the style I like, honestly. Like, I don't really like people who are kind of, like, really breathy. But other than that, I can recognize this guy's really good. And JYP, on the other hand, says he loves singing, and he could be a lead. And says his voice is lovely, actually. And so I don't relate to that. I actually disagree. I don't like breathy singing. But other than that, I would say, yeah, he is definitely a good singer. And when it gets to his dancing, on the other hand, this guy does My House, which to me is kind of a joke because of Boys Planet and what happened in Boys Planet. But this guy uses his body really well. And it's good. He has good subtle movements and good big movements. Like, you look at the twisting of his feet. You look at how he uses the space. This guy's dancing is, like, really, really good. And that's how I feel about it. JYP feels the same way. Says dancing is good and expressing is good. And so I feel like out of all the trainees, this is probably the most skilled one out of everybody. And so, aside from, like, just me saying, don't sing breathy, I mean, other than that, this guy is probably, like, the top trainee in terms of just, if you're just speaking technically and objectively, this guy is probably the top one who appeared on this show so far. Now, the last guy, not least, is Uemara Tomoya, 16. Now, to me, this is a good-looking guy. He's definitely in an awkward phase. But he was cute when he was a kid. And when he's older, he's going to be fit for TV. Like, that's just how his face is going to flesh out. And that's not accounting for whatever... Like, sometimes you kind of expect people to do, like, subtle surgeries behind the scenes during downtime. It's possible this guy's going to do that. But I don't know if JYP is the same way as other entertainment companies where they definitely do that. I would hope that he doesn't have to do that. Because I think he's going to, like, look way better when he gets older as well. But he looks good as he is. But it's going to be slightly awkward and goofy. Most people are between 14 to 20, right? In terms of boys. But apparently this kid studied for a long time. 12 years. Yeah. And he even trained with, like, the Nizi girls. I think he trained with Mako and Rima. I don't know if they're going to show that. I think they did show it. Very briefly. But the thing I like about this kid is, behind the scenes, he's very cheeky. And he's personable, it seems like. He's good at teasing the camera. To me, that's like a Daeyeon quality. Like, if you guys know Daeyeon from Twice, she's actually my favorite member of Twice. And this guy seems to have, like, that kind of, like... He has that very bubbly, nice kind of, like, personality. He makes funny faces. I like this guy. I think he's funny. He's definitely going to get far with that personality. He's probably going to be famous. It's kind of like... what group am I thinking of right now? Michael from... Is it Michael from Astro? I might be thinking his name wrong. But anyways, let's get to this guy's performance. Oh yeah, there's Rima, by the way. So in terms of his dancing and singing, apparently this is just singing. I was looking at it, was dancing. I'm like, oh, this guy's singing and dancing at the same time, doing My House, which is kind of a joke song to me. And to me, it was okay overall. But what I didn't like is that, like, I don't know if I'm characterizing this correctly, because I'm not a vocalist, right? But I felt like maybe he was singing in a head voice a bit, and I didn't really like that. Now, what JYP has to say about that is absolutely nothing. JYP didn't comment on this guy singing at all. I don't know why. Maybe he didn't want to be harsh, but I feel like he just completely ignored it. Either that, or I wasn't paying attention and I missed it. But this guy, yeah, at first he danced and sung this My House song at first. It's kind of a weird thing to put this guy after Sodai, because Tomoyo, he doesn't do My House as good as Sodai, and so he kind of gets kneecapped because of that. I think they could have reversed it, but it seems like they still wanted to end on this guy. Now he actually dances again, which is surprising, because he does like this kind of original dance, and to me at this point his emotions were way better. Like, I could see his emotion as a dancer. JYP says he looked confident as a dancer and he noticed his star talent, but he needs to relax more. But other than that, JYP didn't really have any negative criticisms of this guy. I think he's a JYP trainee. And I don't know if it's like just a coincidence or if his training is... no, I'm not going to say that, because I'm not going to say I'm not going to say that his training irons out the issues that JYP would notice. I think... I'm curious if JYP is overlooking some of the flaws in JYP trainees, like on A2K as well. Like, he just seems like... I did have criticisms of this guy, and I was kind of like, JYP didn't mention it. And so, am I accusing them of kind of softening things for their own trainees? I am kind of accusing them of that a little bit. And that's just because if I notice something, why don't they notice it? It's supposed to be the other way around. They're supposed to notice things I don't notice, because I'm not a pro. I've just been watching competition shows for like 20 years. And so, that's Nizi Project Season 2, the first stage of auditions. I don't know if there's going to be... I think there's going to be more auditions, definitely. But I don't know why this was an hour long. It seems like maybe they'll only do one episode a week. Maybe the reason it's an hour long is because they can't split up the episodes. Apparently this is syndicated on Hulu in Japan. And then we just get the live video linked. But it didn't appear on YouTube, which is kind of strange. Maybe it's going to be there later when I check. But yeah, other than that, I really like the show. It's a good contrast to have running simultaneously with A2K. I kind of wish it wasn't running at the same time as A2K. But I like that they uploaded the full episode and I don't have to stream it. I can just watch it straight. And this is good. I like it. So far, the trainees we've seen are actually better than my expectation. I expected to see a lot more, not as polished guys. But in this one, they all had a really good look to them. They were all nice. And maybe they just filter that stuff out. And that's kind of what I like about the JYP shows, is that they're not going to just milk the joke auditions and stuff. They'll just kind of like get to the point. Anyways, this video is going way too long, but obviously the episode's twice as long as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comment box down below. Finally, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and then I'll see you in the next video.